Wow. With everything Adam Schiff has allegedly done improperly, it just pains me to have to sit here and watch that guy. All right, that's where I want to welcome in my first guest, longtime GOP operative and friend of the show, Roger Stone. Roger, good to see you.
John, great to be here.
How you holding up, Roger? That's my first question. You've been through a lot in the last couple of weeks.
Well, I'm fine, John. As you know, I'm Italian-American, and I'm prepared to fight because I am charged with a series of process crimes for which I am not guilty. I have pled not guilty. I'm still trying to figure out why I was treated like a drug kingpin last Friday when 29 FBI agents fully outfitted out in SWAT gear with assault weapons surrounded my home. The government had to have spent $500,000 to take me and my 71-year-old wife down when they could have just called my lawyer and I would have been happy to voluntarily turn myself in. I don't own a gun. I don't have a valid passport. And the claim that I would tamper or destroy evidence is, of course, ludicrous. The court released me on my own reconnaissance, proving that even the government doesn't think I'm a flight risk. I thought the president's speech last night was masterful. I thought it was Reagan-esque. And it's kind of interesting. We're having the greatest economic revival since the Reagan boom economy, and it's due to the tax cutting and the regulatory cuts of President Donald Trump.
Now, let me ask you a question, Roger, about what the president said last night. He seemed to challenge the special counsel's investigation, and he was clearly challenging the investigations that are going to be opened into him by people, by Democrats in Congress, like Adam Schiff. I thought it was a smart move strategically. I want to get your take on that.
Well, first of all, Adam Schiff is a huckster. He's a con man. He may be the greatest fraud ever elected to Congress. He was caught red-handed colluding with some Russians who contacted him, not even understanding it was a spoof, trying to feed him allegedly naked pictures of the president. This guy is so full of Schiff, his eyes are brown. And I think most people understand it. They have no evidence of Russian collusion. They have no evidence on my part of WikiLeaks collaboration, Russian collusion, or any evidence that I knew about the source or content of allegedly stolen or allegedly hacked emails ultimately published by WikiLeaks. You wouldn't know that, of course, by reading the New York Times or the Washington Post. That's why I have mounted a vigorous defense. Now an Obama-appointed judge is threatening to gag me because they don't want me to tell the American people. You can go to stonedefensefund.com to help me mount a vigorous legal defense. John, I'm looking at $2 million in legal fees. The government has broken me financially after 2 years of insidious leaks. I've lost my health and life insurance. I had to sell my car. I don't own a home. I don't own any stocks, bonds, real estate. I'm not a millionaire, even though you can find online where it says that I am. I'm virtually dirt poor at this point, and I still won't roll over and plead guilty to things I didn't do.
You know, so, Roger, let me ask you.
That's what the president was talking about.
I want to go back to the raid because that's been spoken about. One of the things I found absolutely ridiculous was the heavy-handed approach, as have many others. Having been a law enforcement guy, it's just not the way it's done for non-violent. These aren't even white-collar crimes. These are process crimes. So they go in, they raid your house, they hit your house with an HRT, a hostage rescue team, the elite FBI SWAT team. Like you say, that's who they use to bring down people like El Chapo, Sammy the Bull Gravano, who killed 26 people. That's what an HRT is used for. But more importantly, I feel that this was done purposefully, that someone, and my feeling, Roger, is that it was Andrew Weissman, Robert Mueller's number 2, simply to send a message. This was an intimidation tactic. He knew that you and your wife weren't armed, weren't going to come out guns blazing, that all he had to do was call your lawyer and you'd have showed up at the courthouse. Do you agree with that? I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot here and make you take shots at people in the special counsel's office, but I've been told by many law enforcement sources that this is a textbook Weissman intimidation tactic.
Well, if it is, it didn't work because I'm not intimidated. Look, we know several things. If I'm dangerous, why was CNN allowed to set up a camera crew 25 feet from my front door? Why did CNN show up 40 minutes before the FBI strike force Why did CNN set up their camera tripod 7 minutes before the against me, which was sealed, not the official sealed version, but one with the metadata of Andrew Weissman on it?
Roger, let me stop you there, because this is very important.
By the special counsel is a crime, by the way.
This is very important. So I want to go deeper into that. It's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, because the story's out there, but predictably the mainstream media is not giving it much traction. The day before your arrest, correct me where I'm wrong, CNN allegedly received a copy of the indictment, a sealed indictment, an indictment that wasn't made public. CNN's the only outlet that had a copy of this. And with the accounts that I have read that are out there, the metadata indicates that it was Andrew Weissman, Robert Mueller's number 2, who sent that to CNN. Is that correct?
That's the appearance. I'm hopeful that Senator Lindsey Graham will get to the bottom of this. He has called on the FBI for an explanation of how this all went down. I also believe that the head of the FBI in Miami, a fellow by the name of Pirro, needs to be questioned by the Senate committee. This was a needless waste of the taxpayers' money. They had to spend between the helicopter and the 17 vehicles in my front yard, including 2 armored vehicles, and the 2 amphibious units that pulled up to the canal behind our house, and 29 agents who then swarmed into my house to search every square inch of it. They had to have spent $500,000. Somebody needs to answer as to who approved this. Did the FBI director, Mr. Wray, who, by the way, lied to Congress about whether the president was under investigation, did he approve it? Or did the head of the FBI, Mr. Pirro in Miami, approve it? Or did the acting attorney general approve it? Who approved this police state raid on my home, which was just a waste of the taxpayers' money? John, we both understand the purpose. It was to taint the jury pool. It was to paint a picture of me as guilty before I had a chance to prove my innocence. They treated me like a drug kingpin. Let me put it another way. We had far fewer men guarding our consulate in Benghazi that were used to take me and my 71-year-old wife down.
Look, when I look at the photos of the prisoner transfer of El Chapo when he came to the States, it looks like they had about 12.5 agents on that transfer, so about 10 less than they used at your home. And Roger, the other thing that struck me as bizarre with the arrest was you've been on television. You've been on this show many times, many others, pretty much every major network, for the better part of a year saying, I'm probably going to be indicted. If you were a flight risk, if they thought you were a threat, wouldn't you have gotten a valid passport and disappeared during that year to a country without extradition? I mean, none of this makes any sense. Do your lawyers find it as ridiculous as most of America?
They do, and that's why they're cooperating with Senator Graham and the House Republicans. Of course, Adam Schiff has no interest in this, just like he has no interest into the laundering of Hillary Clinton's campaign funds to pay for a phony dossier that was fabricated with the assistance of Russian intelligence assets to justify the surveillance on not only Carter Page, but as you will learn at trial, surveillance on me. The New York Times reported on January 20th, 2017, that I was among 3 Trump advisors who were under active surveillance during the presidential election. This was far earlier than the appointment of Mr. Mueller or any congressional investigation. What would be the probable cause for that? There are the real crimes, John, the lies of Comey, Clapper, McCabe, Clinton, and so on. And of course, the illegal use of FISA. A FISA warrant can only be issued against an American citizen if they're actively involved in espionage on behalf of a foreign power against the United States. I'm sorry, I don't meet that criteria. And to accuse me of collusion with the Russians when I had family members mowed down by Russian tanks in Budapest in 1956 because I'm half Hungarian and half Italian, I'm Italian from the waist down, is an outrage. It's an insult. My wife's family fled Fidel Castro's gulag. To accuse us of being Russian assets is the worst kind of insult.
Roger, let me ask you this. And again, you might not know, but we saw a report a couple of days ago. President Trump says that he was assured by Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein that he's not the target of the Mueller investigation. I've had many former federal prosecutors on the show saying President is absolutely the target of this Mueller investigation. Going through this arrest, going through the initial questioning, your lawyers speaking, the special counsel attorneys, Is there any indication as to whether or not Rosenstein is being truthful with the president or misleading the president? Is Donald Trump
John,
the subject?
I really can't comment on that because I don't know, among other things. We're in the very preliminary stages, obviously, in their attempt to prosecute me. The judge in question is the same Obama-appointed judge who I think unconstitutionally gagged Paul Manafort. She has already announced that she is contemplating a gag order on me because they don't want me to be able to raise the money to fight. They know they have unlimited tax money. They know that they have 3 platoons of left-wing, mean Ivy League lawyers to come after me, and they don't want me to mount a vigorous defense. That's why people can go to stonedefensefund.com. I will fight if people have my back, but I can't fight if I don't have the resources, and that's why they want to gag me, to make sure that I can't raise the money for a vigorous defense.
All right, Roger Stone. Roger, stick around. Much more to come with Roger about the Mueller investigation. But first, I want to talk to you about today's text poll. Now, reactions from both sides are still coming in on last night's State of the Union address and Stacey Abrams' response for the Democrats. But more importantly, we want to know what you think. We're taking a text poll to see which side you think won the night. Did President Trump win big, or did the Democrats? And there's the poll question. After the State of the Union, do you agree with President Trump's night's State of the Union address and Stacey Abrams' response for the Democrats? But more importantly, we want to know what you think. We're taking a text poll to see which side you think won the night. Did President Trump win big, or did the Democrats? And there's the poll question. After the State of the Union, do you agree with President Trump's or the Democrats' vision for our nation? Now, it's easy. Just grab your cell phone and text the word poll, P-O-L-L, to 95577. We'll immediately send you a link to take the poll, lock in, and verify your vote. Now, we're doing this poll right now, and I'll give you initial results at the end of this program, and we'll, of course, update those results throughout the day. So go right now, grab your cell phone, and text the word poll to 95577. We'll send you that link and record your vote. Stick around, much more to come with Roger Stone right after this.
They've tried whatever they can to make our lives miserable that way. They've been doing it to me for 2 years on other issues. The reality is there's nothing there. We function. We're an incredible business. We do that. But, we can focus on our existing assets. They're trying to make it very difficult for us to grow. They're trying to do anything they can to smear this president. And again, they've gone and executed the greatest witch hunt in probably the American history, certainly going after a president. In 2 years, they've come up with exactly nothing.
Now, that was President Trump's oldest son, Donald Trump Jr. Trump says the Russia investigation is the greatest witch hunt in American history, and I personally agree with him. He says the investigators have done everything they can to make the lives of the Trump family and their associates miserable. And one of those associates is still here with me, longtime GOP operative Roger Stone, who himself is caught up in the middle of what I'm calling Mueller's witch hunt right now. Roger has pled not guilty to multiple process crimes leveled by Mueller. But I want to reiterate again, Roger, none of your charges contain an underlying crime, correct? If Robert Mueller didn't exist, you wouldn't be charged with anything.
That is correct. I'm not charged with Russian collusion, collaboration with WikiLeaks, or any other crime in connection with the 2016 election. I can't rebut every charge against me other than to say that when I get my day in court, if I can get a fair trial in the District of Columbia, I will prove my innocence. Meanwhile, however, I have an Obama-appointed judge who has said in court that she's contemplating issuing a gag order. Is she going to gag the leaks from the Mueller investigation? I have lived with weekly stories accusing me of treason for the last 2 years. Yeah. Newsweek, The Daily Beast, the Washington Post, the New York Times, the worst of them all, the Wall Street Journal, Shelby Holiday, the most dishonest, disingenuous, untruthful, phony reporter in America today. And I've had to live with this. It has bled me financially. It has destroyed my book sales, that plus the war of censorship that's being waged against me at my platform at Infowars.com, where I have a daily show, The War Room, which only yesterday was banned by Facebook Live. It's an insidious campaign of censorship to limit my ability. At the same time, the judge is not going to limit the ability of the special counsel to leak like a sieve, like when they leaked the very fact of my arrest to CNN. It is unconscionable that CNN, if I'm so dangerous, if I'm public enemy number one, why were they allowed to set up a camera 25 feet from my front yard? Why were they allowed to film my wife in a nightgown and bare feet being rousted in the middle of the night when she's not accused of anything? It is really vexing for any
Hey, Roger,
American
let me ask you this because I want to get it firsthand from you. So there are other reports, and they're a bit confusing, that other third-party entities, whether they be journalists, independent journalists, citizens with cell phones, were moved off of your street by law enforcement, but CNN was allowed to remain as if they were part of the FBI contingent. Is that true?
That is correct. CNN was already in place when the FBI arrived. The FBI sealed off the street. Now, I do want to say, John, the individual FBI agents, once I was in custody, treated me with professionalism and courtesy, and many of them rolled their eyes, telling me that they themselves didn't agree with the orders they had received from higher ups. They were very kind to my wife once I was taken into custody. I don't have any real complaint with the rank and file FBI agents, many of whom I'm sure disagreed with the orders they were carrying out. But I hope Senator Graham can get to the bottom of who ordered this and why, because the taxpayers paid $500,000 to take me into custody when it wouldn't have cost anything had they simply contacted my attorney.
Now,
Mr.
Roger,
Mueller and his deputies know who represents me. They could have simply made a phone call.
Roger, I want to ask you this, because one of the things I've been very frustrated by is when I saw the same charges leveled against people like General Mike Flynn and Papadopoulos, they really seem to have gone down without a fight. And I don't like Mueller's tactics. I'm a guy who doesn't like process crimes. I don't like special counsels, and I despise process crimes because they're too subjective. If I say I walked north out of a building on Fifth Avenue 2 years ago, and a preferential witness to the special prosecutor says, nope, Cardillo walked south, I could conceivably be charged with false statements to investigators. That's why I don't like it. Are you going to fight more vigorously than they did? Are you going to fight this thing more vigorously?
I can guarantee you that, but it's really a question, John, as you know, of whether I have the resources. I'm looking at a $2 million legal bill. That's a projection.
Yeah.
I'm just the fact that the government, and I can't discuss because of a protective order the content, but they dumped 3 terabytes of discovery on us. That's 750 million pages. If each one of my 4 lawyers read 150,000 pages a day, we would not be ready for trial this year. It is physically impossible. Yet they have platoons of these angry left-wing Ivy League arrogant Democrats with an unlimited budget overseen by no one. I don't really know where Matt Whitaker is. I don't understand where the Justice Department is. These are abuses that are obvious. But yes, to answer your question, I will fight if people will support me. If I don't have the resources, that's the game. They squeeze you like they did Mike Flynn to make you plead guilty to something you didn't do. I have no intention of doing that, but I have to have the resources not only to feed my family, but also to pay my lawyers. Lawyers are not cheap. I have very good legal advice. I have excellent lawyers. Bruce Rogow, who heads my legal team, has represented Donald Trump on a number of serious and important litigations. He's one of the foremost civil and criminal lawyers in the country. He's an expert on the First Amendment, which is going to be very key in this case. But again, I have to pay my lawyers. And I have a great team of men and women representing me. But, the question is obvious. If they gag me, how will I raise the money to fight?
Wait, but Roger, if they gag you, you'd have to pull your defense fund site down?
Well, that's not clear. That's not clear. But I could not come on your show and talk about it. I would be prevented from doing so. So I don't know, perhaps my daughter or my wife would speak on my behalf. That's not preferable. They're not public people. They're private people. The pressure on my family here is extraordinary, which is why I've asked people to go to stonedefensefund.com As you know, because I gave you one, I was wearing a T-shirt when I was arrested that said, Roger Stone did nothing wrong. You can buy that at 1776.shop, and the proceeds go to pay my legal defense. Many, many of my supporters have bought these T-shirts because they want some memento of their support for me, and they're not afraid to wear them in public, even in liberal parts of South Florida.
Roger, we're running out of time. I only have about 20 seconds. What's next? When is your next court appearance?
I have to be back in court in mid-March. Again, I'm not going to discuss the specifics of the case, other than people need to understand I have pled not guilty, and if you have my back, if you support me at stonedefensefund.com, I will fight.
Roger Stone, longtime political operative. Roger, best of luck. Hopefully we'll speak to you soon. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, there was one moment from last night's State of the Union address that caught my attention, and it was that great moment when President Trump said the U.S. would never be a socialist nation. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about and give you my take on it when we come back. And our text poll. Now, reactions still coming in from both sides of the aisle on last night's State of the Union address and the Democrats' response, but we want your opinion. We're taking this text poll to see which side you think won the night. And there's the question. After the State of the Union, do you agree with President Trump or the Democrats' vision for America? Just grab that cell phone and text the word poll to 95577. We'll immediately send you a link to take the poll, lock in, and verify your vote. And we're doing that poll right now. And I'll show you those initial results at the end of this show. We're going to also update those results throughout the day. So grab that cell phone right now. Text the word poll to 95577. Tell us who you think won the State of the Union last night, who you agree with, President Trump or the Democrats. We'll send you that link. You can vote. And we'll be right back.